and I had an appointment with the principal, and she had the assistant principal, and I said I have a concern about the TikTok dances. I said my problem is the choice of songs, and she says, well, all the songs were approved by me. The teacher put together a list of songs and she gave them to me and I approved them. And I said, you are not protecting them. You are not protecting them. You are introducing them to the world.
Hey friends, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It is Valentine's Day. It is Wednesday, February 14th, 2024. I hope everyone's having a beautiful day. Okay, it's been a few weeks since I've updated y'all on the Ruby Franke situation, the Kevin Franke, the Jody Hildebrandt situation. You know, she's about to get sentenced in 6 days, and this story has been ongoing. A lot of us on YouTube saw this all play out very publicly, with Ruby becoming weirder and weirder and weirder, abandoning her channel. Every YouTuber noticing that what was happening on her channel was wrong. Many of us trying to report on the situation, and some of us being silenced. So today's story is a combination of what Kevin Franke is trying to do and why I'm still concerned that he's a fit parent, given how much he participated in some of this and how long he hasn't been away from any of it, and how he allowed, in the middle of this, alienation in his family and separation from his kids. And now, like the knight in shining narcissism that he is, he's going to have an opportunity to get custody, it sounds like, of at least one of the children. I don't know if I like it. Ruby Franke, she and her family, did you know her sisters are still on YouTube making YouTube content, acting like nothing happened? Okay, it's not true that they aren't acting like nothing happened, but they're continuing to put their kids out on display, including her sister Bonnie, who recently uploaded a video which included her son literally projectiling all over the place. I'm not going to share the details of the video, and I'm not even going to share you the video, but it's videos like these where kids have no privacy and everything is made for content that makes you wonder if anyone in this family has actually learned a thing about what's happened and what's transpired. So let's dive into this topic of Kevin Franke files for custody of one of his children, and he gets a huge payday for 2 of his kids. Kevin is riding a wave of what appears to be happiness and arrogance, maybe, I don't know, wave of winning that has made him take a new step, a bold step, to get one of his kids back. Let's dive into the topic. Before we do, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and click on the bell so you never miss a video. Now I'm gonna share some little tea. Not really tea, but my own experience with Kevin Franke and why it's hard for me to believe that he is a good fit to be the parent of these kids. Because years ago, when there was horrible things happening in their house, many YouTubers, including myself, spoke out on our channels and just shared the videos that they were putting on their channel. There was a specific video where Chad, their son Chad, revealed that he had not had a bed for 7 months. Or yeah, it was like 7 or 8 months, and that he had pulled a prank on his little brother, and he had woken his brother up in the middle of the night and told him they were going to go to Disney, and his brother got all excited and got all dressed, and then it didn't happen, and then he did something not nice to his little brother. And so as a result of that, he was losing his privileges, and a bed in a bedroom by a child is not a right. And so he slept on a beanbag on the floor. They took a door off of a frame, and he didn't have a bedroom. And he admitted that he didn't have a bedroom. And these were all things that Ruby admitted to, that Chad said. It was not a debatable, it wasn't debatable that it was said or that it happened. He was also sent to a wilderness camp where he had an injured foot and then came home, and he didn't get medical care while he was there. And it created a lot of issues, lots of issues for him. And all of us just being on YouTube, this was around the same time that Micah Stauffer rehomed Huxley. There was a lot of push on these channels, these family channels, and what's happening to these kids, like who's looking out for them. And so when I did a video, I received a cease and desist from them. When their attorney contacted me, their attorney sent me this random cease and desist. The cease and desist clearly was written at it was like written to everyone, because it didn't even reference any of my videos. And so I contacted them and I said, what did I actually say? Could you clarify what you wanted to me remove? And he said, there are multiple statements across your various videos which are defamatory per se, including that my clients were exploiting their children as workers and in violation of labor laws, that they were forcing their children to sleep on the floor, and that they allow their children to go hungry. These statements and others have caused harm to my clients, including, as you are aware, resulting in a bogus Child Protective Services investigation. I see that you made 2 of the subject videos private on your channel, which my client appreciates. However, one offending video is identified by our firm on June 17th, 2020's letter still remains up. I will be happy to speak to your attorney, but I would believe we can resolve this matter if you remove this last video. I didn't want to go through litigation. But what really bothered me about these emails from the lawyer was an accusation that because I reported on what they were putting out on their own channel, and I didn't tell anyone to call the police, I didn't do anything like that, they accused me of traumatizing their children. And there was an email that was sent from their attorney to my attorney. And he said, good afternoon. As you know, we represent the family vlog channel 8 Passengers who continue to be harmed by defamatory video uploads to YouTube by your client. In addition to reputational and financial damage to my clients, the video uploaded by your client have resulted in harassment of my clients and even inspired a baseless CPS services visit to the homes, which traumatized the children. In the spirit of resolving this dispute without the need to litigate, we request that advise your clients to make the following videos private, otherwise unavailable on our channel immediately until we can work out an appropriate settlement. It was the most gaslighting, deflection, email I've ever received, because I was one of dozens of channels that talked about it, and there was absolutely no way that my specific video caused any sort of investigation. And then to accuse the people that are reporting on it to causing harm to the children is just asinine. And now we know, all these years later, it wasn't just one investigation. There was more than 19 calls to this family. And I'm sharing this now because this was back in 2020. This is before Kevin was estranged from Ruby. And they were doing things to the kids with the 2 of them that were not helpful to the children. And regardless if it didn't get them arrested, and regardless if it resulted in nothing happening, what Kevin was participating in was wrong. And what those kids had to go through wasn't okay. And just because CPS looked the other way that time and continued to look the other way and continued to look the other way didn't make his actions right then, and they don't make the actions right now. So when I see this, it makes me upset, because I think you literally, after that, it got worse. But he was participating in it. Maybe he wasn't there when everything happened recently. And he was estranged and alienated from Ruby. But the facts are, he isn't innocent. and he'll never be innocent into what has happened to those children. And he only this fall has come to the realization that what he was learning and doing to the kids was wrong. And he still refuses to say that he did anything wrong. He blames Jody. Now, I understand Jody has a lot of influence. She was a therapist and he thought he was following her directions, but common sense that is pretty standard here, and that is if a therapist is telling you to take away a bed from a child and sleep on the floor, you fire your therapist. Naturally, when I saw this motion to the court, I got concerned. So on February 9th, Kevin filed a petition for guardianship for his 16-year-old daughter, Abby. Abby is not named in the indictment against Ruby or Jody and is not part of that case. When the kids were found after the arrest, the kids were found with Ruby's friend and Jody's co-business partner. And the girls, who were 14 and 16, they had a choice. They could go with CPS and go into custody, or they could go with their older sister, Sherry. Now, Sherry has been pretty clear that there's been some challenges with the girls having to be there with them, and there's been rumors that there's been a couple times they've run away and it's been very challenging for them. And listen, if this is happening, it would be pretty typical given the severity of what their family is going through and all the trauma that's going on and the separation. And Sherry is still a very young woman, and so it's a lot of responsibility to put on her to take her kid, to take her sisters. But she did. But now, after Kevin was successful petitioning to the court, by the way, to have Jody pay restitution. So I told you back in January, he filed a motion in the court and asked them to prevent her from selling her home and hiding her assets, and to make sure that money was set aside for the children for their ongoing medical care and therapy, which was caused by Jody. He ends up getting a deal from the judge, and the judge says that Jody can go through with the sale and that they will have to set aside, Jody will have to set aside $100,000 for the two children for their ongoing care. That seems like a very small price, a very small dollar amount for the amount of damage she has caused to those kids. $100,000 for medical care and for ongoing therapy is not a lot, and it's not going to go very far. I don't know if there's like a limit, but he got set aside, and it's going to have to go to a trust, and it doesn't go to Kevin, but it'll set aside into a trust, and then Jody can do whatever she wants with the rest of the money. I personally believe that given the fact that what she did for a living caused damage to people and caused harm to people, she should have to forfeit all of it, because clearly what she was doing was illegal. And I'm confident that the Franke children were not the only ones harmed. So Kevin files a petition for guardianship for Abby on February 9th after he gets the good news from the judge that Jody will have to set aside $100,000 for the two minor children. Mind you, the minor children are not in his care or his custody. His attorney suspects that Kevin will have custody of the kids by no later than September 2024, when everything wraps up. Kevin likely is going to have to prove to the court that he is a fit parent and that he will not do the same things that he did before. What concerns me is that this is the state of Utah. And listen, I am not trying to harp on Utah, but Utah just a couple weeks ago passed a law that they can ignore the federal government when it comes to certain laws and do whatever they want. They're trying to basically become like Texas and just be like their own independent state, which you cannot secede from the United States. That's an agreement and a part of when the Civil War was over. You can't. The states don't have independence. They can't secede. But Utah doesn't want to bend to federal policies, and they want to be able to discriminate and do all of their things. I mean, they literally just passed the most atrocious laws for children that are transgender and adults that are transgender. Utah doesn't really have the best track record when it comes to children. They also don't have a very good track record of prosecuting cases where kids are harmed. Look at all the kids that live in polygamy and all of the perpetrators that are just walking around in broad daylight and nobody does a damn thing. So my experience watching court cases play out in Utah is that this isn't going to be what I want. I believe Kevin will 100% get the kids back because it's Utah. He's white. He's Mormon. He's part of the LDS faith. He's a former faculty member at BYU. They were hugely active in their ward. He has influence. And even though his wife made a mistake, it's a patriarchal society, and I have no doubt that they will give him back his kids, sadly. On top of that, I still don't think he should get his kids because I don't think he'll learn. And given the fact that he was okay with the way that they were treated in 2020, I fear for any of those children returning to him unless he is in intensive therapy, unless he can promise that it'll never happen again, that he will never make a kid sleep on a beanbag chair. I wish they could go retroactively back and charge him for what happened in 2020. I wish they could go retroactively back for the neglect of Chad when he went to that wilderness camp and didn't get care for his foot. Chad and his sister are on better terms with Kevin, and they're trying to let bygones be bygones, according to Randy Kester. But that's sort of what I have for an update. Now, Ruby's sentencing is on the 20th. And for whatever reason, they haven't had a sentencing report put in place yet. Like, they haven't posted, like, usually before sentencing, the prosecutors will put in what their suggestion for sentencing is, and then the defense will give what theirs is. Now, she has a plea agreement where she will serve time, but there wasn't an estimated time of how much she would serve. So usually before sentencing, the defendant would say, this is what I want, and the prosecution would say, this is what I want, and then the pre-sentencing report would come out. Ruby is going to blame Jody for being under Jody's influence. I suspect the courts will be a lot more lenient on her than on Jody, who was a therapist and under a duty to protect and care for her clients. I suspect that if anyone's going to get hit with the max, it's going to be Jody. Now, the maximum they can serve under the law is 30 years total, and the minimum each one of them could serve would be 4 years. I hope that Ruby will get around 10, 15, and I really hope that Jody gets 30. Either way, no matter how much time is sentenced for either one of those ladies, it's never going to change what happened to those kids, and it's never going to undo what happened and heal what they've done. And another thing that concerns me about Kevin is, despite filing for divorce from Ruby in November, nothing else has happened. No other filings, no other documents. Ruby hasn't even responded. I know they're going to get divorced, but it almost feels like he filed for divorce only so he could get custody of the kids. That's just my opinion. I don't know if it's true or not. So what do you think? What is Ruby going to end up with her sentence? And do you have a different opinion on Kevin than I do? I would love to know what your thoughts are. Tell me in the comments below. Bye, guys.